Hi there. It's Women's History Month, so for this week's First Chapter Friday, I'm going to read to you parts of Wheels of Change by Sue Macy. This is an informational text. It is a nonfiction text, which means it is a true book about how the bicycle really changed life for women, even around the world. And the cool thing about informational text, I think a lot of people really like to read nonfiction, and there's a plenty people who really prefer nonfiction. And sometimes they're like, "Oh, I don't know, something's weird. I don't like to read books because I only like to read nonfiction." I've heard people say that, and I think that's unfortunate that people feel that way. If you're a nonfiction reader, you are a reader. So, the great thing about nonfiction, about informational text, is you don't necessarily have to read books like this cover to cover. In fact, when I read it to you, I'm going to skip around a little bit, just like I would as a reader of nonfiction. It is informational. So, the point of it is to give you information. Now, I think you can learn something from any book that you read, but the point of an informational text is for you to learn some cool things that you never knew before. So, it is just find something, a topic that interests you, pick up an informational book, and just see what you can get out of it. I have a real interest in this because my husband and I used to own a bike shop, so bicycles have been a big part of my life for quite a while now. And I found the information in this book really fascinating. So let's take a look. So first we'll take a look at the table of contents, because the table of contents is the part that tells you what's going on in this book and lets you picture or kind of choose which topics you want to look at. So you can see we've got a foreword and then an introduction. So the difference between those two is a foreword is written by somebody who's not the author to kind of give you information about the book. And then the introduction is usually written by the author that gives you just a little bit of background about maybe why they wrote the book or how they wrote the book or something to give you a little bit of background. Then we have chapters on inventing the bicycle. There's one called The Devil's Advance Agent that's about why people had concerns about women riding bicycles, or anyone riding bicycles, I think this one has. Part about fashion, Fast and Fearless, New Freedoms. And then there's some information at the end about some timelines, resources, and sources. And of course, the index, which is if you wanted to actually look up something about like a certain term or a certain if you were doing some research, that index is super important to be able to look up something. And then credits of where they got the pictures, because when it's a nonfiction book, all of this information was compiled from somewhere else. So they're giving you that information about where they got their sources in case you want to go and find out more about this really cool topic. So this is the foreword. This is the part that's written by somebody else, and it's written by someone named Leah Misbach Day. Bicycles have long played a role in my life. As a young woman, I rode one year-round before I had a car, but it was later in adulthood that the bicycle became more than a source of transportation for me. The bicycle actually began to truly shape the way I saw the world. In efforts to restart the lives of those devastated by the crushing waves of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, my husband, F.K. Day, and I founded World Bicycle Relief, WBR. WBR works to provide access to independence and livelihood through the power of bicycles. During our work in Sri Lanka in 2005 and 2006, we put more than 24,000 new bicycles into the hands of those rebuilding their lives. Since 2006, we have moved into Africa, where we currently work in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya, addressing oppressive poverty and the AIDS pandemic by mobilizing volunteer caregivers, students, and entrepreneurs with bicycles. As WBR's resident photographer, I'm privileged to see firsthand the impact bicycles have on the lives of our recipients. Wheels of Change is a book about history, but today bicycles still empower women. I have met many in Zambia who tell me the bicycle has changed their lives, saved lives, gotten the sick to clinics, brought goods to market, and made day-to-day things a whole lot better. Mary Luwanika, a student living in rural Zambia, is having a profound experience in being empowered to steer her own course. At 17 in 2009, Luwanica was the very first student to receive a World Bicycle Relief Bike. That day, she said she felt safer already on the long, sometimes dangerous path to and from school. This is particularly important for Luwanica as she wants to stay in school and graduate from college to become a doctor. After completing another year of school, Luwanica said in 2010, "It is unlikely I would have made it to the 8th grade if I didn't have a bicycle." And here's a picture of her and her joy. It is a challenge for many African girl students to remain in school. A myriad of obstacles often stand in their way. They have so many chores to do in the morning they often cannot get to school or start their lessons on time. Or their parents need them to take care of younger siblings while they go work in the fields, a job they would never bestow on their boy children. It used to take Luwanica an hour to walk to and from school. Now her biking commute is 20 minutes. Luwanica is able to get her chores done, making it to school on time, and feel refreshed enough to pay attention in class. Studies continue to prove that if a girl stays in school, she will strengthen her family, community, and her nation. A long list of benefits of educating a girl in a developing country compiled by the World Health Organization includes later marriages, smaller families, better hygiene, greatly increased likelihood that further children will receive education, and, my favorite, greater confidence. A bicycle is a simple, sustainable tool that eases long travel distances and encourages girls to stay in school. Freedom comes in many forms. For Mary Luwanica, a bicycle provides freedom from social oppression. A bicycle can cultivate independence. In Wheels of Change, Sue Macy quotes Ellen B. Parkhurst in Washington's Evening Times. "A girl who rides a wheel is lifted out of herself and her surroundings." That was true in 1896, and incredibly, it remains true in places around the world today. You see, the bicycle can really change the way you see the world. Leah Misbach Day, World Bicycle Relief. So now I'm going to read you the introduction to just give you a little background about this book. As part of the introduction, there's a quote that says, "To men, the bicycle in the beginning was merely a new toy, another machine added to the long list of devices they knew in their work and play. To women, it was a steed upon which they rode into a new world." Women in the Wheel, Munsey's Magazine, May 1896. Introduction. When I was a kid, I took great pleasure in jumping on my bike and riding to the corner candy store about a half a mile away. Although I had no knowledge of the part the bicycle had played as a vehicle of change for turn of the 20th century women, I was acutely aware that it allowed this 1960s girl a unique measure of independence. On my bike, I could break free of the bonds that held me in my neighborhood to go buy Necco wafers and candy necklaces and atomic fireballs. If I felt particularly adventurous, I could even ride a bit farther for a fresh ice cream cone at Applegate Farm. That said, it's hard to grasp the full extent of the bicycle's impact on Americans in the late 19th century, so that's like the late 1800s, particularly female Americans. Imagine a population imprisoned by their very clothing, the stiff corsets, heavy skirts, and voluminous petticoats that made it difficult to take a deep breath, let alone exercise. Add to that the laws and social conventions that cemented a man's place as head of the household and holder of the purse strings. How suffocated women must have felt, and how liberated they must have been as they pedaled their wheels toward new horizons. Wheels of Change looks at how the bicycle took America by storm in the 1880s and 1890s, and especially at the ways in which it changed women's lives. It also explores the bicycle culture of the era with short features appearing after each chapter that highlight the impact of the two-wheeler on everyday life. You'll meet celebrity bicyclists of the day, learn cycling slang, read about cycling songs and magazines, and see bicycles used in advertisements for everything from carpets to candy to baking flour. Writing this book helped satisfy my curiosity about a topic I first encountered in the early 1990s. While working on Winning Ways, My Social History of American Women in Sports, I came across an item about Jane Yatman and Jane Lindsay, who took turns holding long distance cycling records over and over again in 1899. I also read the influences of Frances Willard, president of a women's Christian temperance union, on how and why she learned to ride a bicycle at age 53. Both suggested that there was a story to be told about women and bicycles at the turn of the century. It proved a colorful story indeed. I hope you enjoy the ride. So now I'm going to just sort of skip around a little just in the beginning part of this book so you can see some of the other things that are in this awesome story. So the first chapter is about how the bicycle was invented. And the first bicycle that was, widely used was called a high wheeler or a penny farthing. And the way people would ride it is that they would like kind of hop way, you're up way, way high in the air, you hop right up on it and then sort of pedal along. But you can imagine that this kind of bicycle with a long skirt would have been pretty hard to ride. So the chapter goes on to kind of talk about different ways that bicycles were changed over time and different kinds of bicycles. And I was kind of drawn to this page that is about women inventors. So women got really into riding bicycles for lots of reasons, partly because it was great exercise and partly because, like it said in the introduction, it afforded them some freedom that they didn't have at that time in their societal role, which of course has changed a lot since, the late 1800s and early 1900s. But at the time, it was a big deal. So some of the inventions that women invented were Kate Park invented the bicycle lock in 1890 so that she could lock up her bicycle and prevent it from being stolen. Alice Bennett in Elgin, in Illinois, created a canopy to go over the top of the bicycle so she wouldn't get sunburned while she was out riding. Mary Henderson invented a bicycle saddle that was like a more comfortable seat for women to ride bicycles. Because even now, I don't know if you know this, but if you are a bicyclist, you do that women's seats and men's seats are different even now to this day, usually. Sarah Clagett in Prince George's County, Maryland, invited a bicycle skirt fastener in 1897 because women were still had to wear these long skirts and long dresses. And you can imagine how long skirts might get caught up in the wheels and in the pedals and be a dangerous situation. So they invented different way. She invented a way for a skirt to be held down so that it didn't get caught in the wheel when a woman was riding a bicycle. And Agnes Ms. and Maud A. Pallinson in North Dakota invented the bicycle stand in lock in 1899 so that the bicycle could kind of like stand up and be worked on, which is something that is still used in bike shops today. When you go to a bike shop, you may have seen them, that the bicycle is put up in a stand that holds on to the bike up high so the technician can work on the bicycle, just like a car technician works on a car. I really like this picture of Alice Austin. She was a photographer that used a bicycle to carry around her equipment so she could go to more places and take pictures. And one of the cool things about this picture is that the bicycle in this picture is actually pretty similar to kind of a trendy style of bicycle that has come back into fashion now, more of a cruiser bike. But you can see how the bicycle the bar in the bicycle is dropped down low to make it easier for women to get on and off the bicycle, especially when they were wearing longer skirts. And that's a style of bicycle that still is in existence now. So this chapter called "The Devil's Chain Advance Agent" was really fascinating to me because it's about the social change that happened very quickly after bicycles were invented in both men and women. So of course it makes it faster and easier for people to get around, of course, both men and women. People started to notice very quickly the good positive health effects that bicycles had. But there were people out there that were very concerned about how that might impact women, because at the time it was still believed that women were more frail. Well, I should say was believed more by men, I guess, but people still believed women were more frail. Women were less strong, and that maybe bicycling was too much, would be too much for them. It might be something that would be dangerous to their health. And then there were also concerns, and you can kind of see in this picture, that the freedom brought about by being able to get out on a bicycle might be lead to some sort of morality issues around women, and that they might be more encouraged to do things that were considered really unseemly for women in that day. And so I'm going to read you this one. Here's another picture of a bunch of people out cycling. So you can kind of see the kinds of clothes. The other concern was that women were going to start wearing pants. Heavens to Betsy. It was when these kinds of pants called bloomers were becoming popular. And one of the reasons why they became popular was because women would wear them usually underneath their dresses, so that they could bicycle and and walk and get around a little easier. And so that was a concern, that people were going to start wearing, women were going to start wearing pants, heavens to Betsy. But I'm going to read you this. You can kind of see this picture. Whoops, I'll back it up so you can see this picture. And this is like a good example of what it looked like, what women would maybe be wearing when they were riding a bicycle. You can see how I don't know if you can tell in this picture just how cinched in the waist the woman was. That's because women wear corsets to cinch their waist really tiny. I can't imagine wearing one of those and riding a bicycle. But this is what this particular little ad says. So in 1897, Spalding featured this chivalrous gentleman and winsome young woman on the cover of its bicycle catalog. So that's the picture from a bicycle catalog. Now I'm going to read you a little column that appeared in the Omaha Daily Bee, which was a newspaper in Omaha, Nebraska, September 1st, 1895. And this is a list of don'ts for women wheelers, so women who ride bicycles. Don't be a fright. Don't carry a flask. Don't wear a golf hose. Don't faint in the road. Don't wear a man's cap. Don't wear tight garters. Don't stop at roadhouses. Don't forget your tool bag. Don't attempt a century, which is a 100-mile ride. Don't coast. It is dangerous. Don't say, feel my muscle. Don't criticize people's legs. Don't boast of your long rides. Don't wear loud-hued leggings. Don't wear clothes that don't fit. Don't wear jewelry while on a tour. Don't powder your face on the road. Don't wear rubber-soled cycling shoes. Don't go to church in your bicycle costume. Don't imagine everybody is looking at you. Don't tempt fate by riding too near the curbstone. Don't ask, what do you think of my bloomers? Don't try to ride in your brother's clothes to see how it feels. Don't overdo things. Let cycling be a recreation, not a labor. So I really thought that this section, this is a picture of the author. What this section was really cool because it was talking about what kinds of social change happened as a result of this. And that's a lot of what this book is about. I read you the sort of beginning, but it goes on. So if this is something you are interested in, or if there's another topic of some kind that you're interested in, go to the nonfiction section and check out a book on that topic. You might learn something.